Hello students, this is Mrs. Sonal Patil. In the previous class, we had begun with the chapter Biomolecules. Today, we will continue with the same. Today, we are going to study about polysaccharides. Before we know what are polysaccharides, let us understand what are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are polyhydroxyaldehyde or polyhydroxyketones, or the compounds which yield these on hydrolysis. The simplest carbohydrates are the sugars, including glucose and sucrose. Carbohydrates can be classified as monosaccharides, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides, of which monosaccharides, they are the simplest sugars which cannot be hydrolyzed into simple sugar. Monosaccharides are building blocks of more complex carbohydrates. Depending upon the number of carbon atoms present, they are classified as trioses containing 3 carbon, tetroses containing 4 carbon, pentoses containing 5 carbon, and hexoses containing 6 carbon, etc. If the carbonyl group is at the end of carbon chain, the monosaccharide is an aldehyde. If the carbonyl group is at any position of the carbon chain or on the carbon chain, the monosaccharide is ketone. Example, ribose and deoxyriboses are the pentoses. Glucose, galactose and fructose are hexoses. Coming to oligosaccharides, a group of carbohydrate which yield a few, that is about 2 to 10 monosaccharides upon hydrolysis. So they get hydrolyzed and they release 2 to 10 monosaccharides. Such a carbohydrates are called as oligosaccharides. When 2 monosaccharides are released, they are disaccharides. Trisaccharides if 3 monosaccharides are released. For example, for oligosaccharides are maltose, sucrose, lactose, etc. Coming to polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are long chain of sugars. The acid insoluble pellet also has polysaccharides as another class of macromolecules. Polysaccharides are the long chain of sugars. They are threads, literally a cotton thread, containing different monosaccharides as building blocks. So monosaccharides are the building blocks of polysaccharides. For example, cellulose is a polymeric polysaccharide consisting of only one type of monosaccharide, that is glucose. Cellulose is a homopolymer. Remember, polysaccharides are classified into two types, homopolysaccharides and heteropolysaccharides. Homopolysaccharides are nothing but they're containing a single type of monosaccharide, whereas heteropolysaccharides are containing two or more different kinds of monosaccharides. They're called as heteropolymers. Cellulose is a homopolymer, whereas starch is a variant of this but present as a storehouse of energy in plant tissues. Starch, it is an important storage polysaccharide, as I told you, in the plant cells. Starch is abundant in tubers such as potato. Animals have another variant called glycogen. It is a main storage polysaccharide of animal cells. Glycogen is abundant in liver and skeletal muscles. In the polysaccharide chain, the right end is called the reducing end and the left end is called non-reducing end. Starch forms helical secondary structures. In fact, starch can hold iodine molecules in the helical portion. The starch iodine is blue in color. Cellulose does not contain complex helices and hence cannot hold iodine. So that was about polysaccharides. Coming to the next are the nucleic acids. The other type of macromolecule that one would find in the acid insoluble fraction of any living tissue is the nucleic acid. These are polynucleotides. Together with polynucleotides and polypeptides, these comprise the true macromolecular fraction of any living tissue or cell. For nucleic acids, the building block is a nucleotide. So, a complex organic compound in a living tissue, living cells that of a chain of nucleotides. It is a chain of nucleotides, and for nucleic acids, I told you the building block is a nucleotide. A nucleotide has three chemically distinct components. One is a heterocyclic compound, the second is a monosaccharide, and a third is a phosphoric acid or phosphate. So these are the main components of a nucleotide. So a nucleotide is having a heterocyclic compound, a monosaccharide, and thirdly it is having phosphoric acid or phosphate. The heterocyclic compounds in nucleic acids are the nitrogenous bases called or named adenine, guanine, uracil, cytosine, and thymine. Adenine and guanine are substituted purines, so these are purines, while the rest are pyrimidines. The skeletal heterocyclic ring is called as purine and pyrimidine respectively. The sugar found in polynucleotides is either ribose or deoxyribose. So, a nucleic acid containing deoxyribose sugar is called DNA, that is deoxyribonucleic acid, while that which contains ribose is called ribonucleic acid, that is RNA. So, remember, a nucleotide is consisting of three components: heterocyclic compound, monosaccharide, and phosphoric acid, and it is having purines and pyrimidines, where purines are adenine and guanine, whereas uracil, cytosine, and thymine are called as the pyrimidines. This diagram shows it is indicating the secondary structure of DNA, where you can see over here the base pairing. Okay, then you can see the components of a nucleotide. Phosphate group is been shown over here. So this is the diagram indicating secondary structure of DNA. Here also the DNA structure is being shown, which is showing you the sugar phosphate backbone. So backbone of DNA is made up of sugar and phosphate base pairs, where you can see that guanine is pairing with cytosine, thymine pairs with adenine. So these guanine, cytosine, thymine, adenine are called as nitrogenous bases, and here base pairing is being shown. Coming to the structure of proteins. Proteins, as mentioned earlier, are heteropolymers containing strings of amino acids. Structure of molecules means different things in different contexts. In organic chemistry, the structure invariably refers to the molecular formulae. Organic chemists always write a two-dimensional view of the molecules while representing the structure of molecules. Physicists conjure up the three-dimensional views of molecular structures, while biologists describe the protein structure at four levels. The sequence of amino acid, that is the positional information in a protein, which is the first amino acid, which is second, and so on, is called primary structure of a protein. So protein is exhibiting primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary, and a quaternary structure, where you can see that primary structure actually it is found in the form of linear sequence of amino acid. First amino acid is called as N-terminal amino acid, and the last is called as C-terminal amino acid. So it is a linear sequence of amino acid which is called as the primary structure of protein. A protein is imagined as a line, the left end represented by the first amino acid and the right end represented as the last amino acid. The first amino acid is also called, as I told you, it is called as N-terminal amino acid. The last amino acid is called the C-terminal amino acid. A protein thread does not exist throughout as an extended rigid rod. The thread is folded in the form of helix. So linear structure is again folded in the form of helix. Of course, only some portions of the protein thread are arranged in the form of helices. In proteins, only right-handed helices are observed. Other regions of protein thread are folded into other forms in what is called as a secondary structure. So polypeptide chain undergoes folding or coiling, which is stabilized by hydrogen bonding. It is called a secondary structure. Right-handed helices are observed. Example, fibrous protein in hairnail. So this is nothing but it is a secondary structure which is showing, which undergoes. So a polypeptide chain is undergoing folding and coiling and establishing the, or which is stabilized by hydrogen bonding. In addition, the long protein chain is also folded upon itself like a hollow woolen ball, giving rise to tertiary structure. This gives us a three-dimensional view of a protein. So, long protein chain is folded upon itself like a hollow woolen ball. It is giving the three-dimensional view of a protein. Example for tertiary structure is myosin. Some proteins are assembly of more than one polypeptide or subunits. The manner in which these individual folded polypeptides or subunits are arranged with respect to each other is the architecture of protein, otherwise called the quaternary structure of a protein. So, if two or more polypeptides with their folding and coiling are arranged with respect to each other, it is called as a quaternary structure. Example is human hemoglobin molecule has 4 peptide chains, 2 alpha and 2 beta subunits. That is nothing but here the same thing is been explained here. Adult hemoglobin, human hemoglobin consists of 4 subunits. 2 of these are identical to each other, hence 2 subunits of alpha type and 2 subunits of beta type together constitute the human hemoglobin. So this was about the primary, secondary and tertiary and the quaternary structure of the protein. So here the primary structure has been shown. You can just see it is a linear sequence of amino acid, whereas in the secondary structure the polypeptide chain undergoes folding and coiling, which has been shown here. And in the tertiary structure, the long protein chain is folded upon itself like a hollow woolen ball. So that is a tertiary structure. Whereas quaternary structure, in quaternary structure there are 2 or more polypeptides with their folding and coiling. So they are undergoing folding and coiling and they're arranged with respect to each other. So that is called as a quaternary structure. So these are the structure of protein or the protein structure. Nature of bond linking monomers in a polymer. In a polypeptide or a protein, amino acids are linked by a peptide bond. As we have seen in the earlier class, amino acids are linked together by a peptide bond, which is formed when the carboxylic group of one amino acid reacts with the amino group of the next amino acid with the elimination of water molecule or the water moiety by the process of which is called as dehydration. So here remember, peptide bond is formed between the carboxylic group of one amino acid and amino group of the next neighboring amino acid, okay, with the liberation of a water molecule. In a polysaccharide, the individual monosaccharides are linked by a glycosidic bond. This bond is also formed by dehydration. This bond is formed between two carbon atoms of two adjacent monosaccharides. So monosaccharides are linked by glycosidic bond. In a nucleic acid, a phosphate moiety links the 3 carbon of one sugar of one nucleotide to the 5' carbon of the sugar of the succeeding nucleotide. The bond between the phosphate and hydroxyl group of the sugar is an ester bond. So here the ester bond is present. As there is one such ester bond on either side, it is called as a phosphodiester bond. Nucleic acids exhibit a wide variety of structures, secondary structures. For example, one of the secondary structures exhibited by DNA is a famous Watson-Crick model. This model says that the DNA exists as a double helix. The two strands of polynucleotides are anti-parallel, that is, they run in the opposite direction. The backbone is formed, as I told you earlier, the backbone is formed by sugar phosphate or the sugar phosphate sugar chain. The nitrogen bases are projected more or less perpendicular to this backbone but face inside. So nitrogen bases are facing inside, as in the earlier diagram we have seen. Nitrogen bases are facing inside. They are nothing but adenine and guanine of one strand compulsorily pairs with thymine and cytosine respectively on the other strand. So base pairing is occurring on the DNA strand. There are 2 hydrogen bonds between adenine and thymine, and there are 3 hydrogen bonds between guanine and cytosine. Each strand appears like a helical staircase. Each step of ascent is represented by a pair of bases. At each step of ascent, the strand is take turns, that is 30 degree, 36 degree. One full turn of helical strand would involve 10 steps or 10 base pairs. The pitch would be 34 Armstrong. The rise per base pair would be 3.4 Armstrong. So here this is the description about the structure of the DNA molecule, which we have seen earlier over here. So here it is again. I'll just repeat it once again. So your backbone is made up of sugar and phosphate. Okay, and you can see that nitrogen bases are projecting inside. They're perpendicular to the backbone. Okay, so base pairing is occurring. I told you guanine always pairs with cytosine. Thymine always pairs with the adenine. Okay, so this is the structure, DNA structure. Coming to the dynamic state of body constituents. Concept of metabolism we'll discuss here. So metabolism, as you know, that the chemical reactions which are occurring in our body constitute the metabolism. A simple bacterial cell, a protozoan, a plant, or an animal contain thousands of organic compounds. These compounds or biomolecules are present in certain concentrations. One of the greatest discoveries ever made was the observation that all these biomolecules have a turnover. This means that they are constantly being changed into some other biomolecules and also made from some other biomolecules. This breaking and making is through chemical reactions constantly occurring in living organisms. Together, all these chemical reactions are called metabolism. So remember, breaking and making of the chemical reactions is occurring in the living organism, and sum total of all these chemical reactions which are occurring is called as metabolism. Each of the metabolic reactions results in the transformation of biomolecules. A few examples for such metabolic transformations are removal of carbon dioxide from amino acids, making an amino group into an amine, removal of amino group in a nucleotide base, hydrolysis of glycosidic bond in a disaccharide, etc. These are the examples of the metabolic reactions. Majority of these metabolic reactions do not occur in